Hey everyone, it's Alex, and here's my very late video about the nominations for the 25th Screen Actors Guild Awards. Now, the Screen Actors Guild Awards are the midway point through awards season, and they often serve as an indicator of what will go on to win at the Oscars and the Emmys. Not a perfect indicator, but a strong indicator nonetheless. And the nominations and winners here are chosen by the members of SAG-AFTRA, the Actors Union. So these are all acting-related categories. And the way the categories usually work is that the television categories are just broken up into male versus female. They don't distinguish between lead and supporting. However, the film categories, since there aren't as many as television, do distinguish between lead and supporting. And both mediums also have stunt categories, but those stunt categories are never actually presented on the air. They usually announce the winners for those on the red carpet, but I'll obviously talk about those winners when I make my winners video along with all the main winners. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read off all the nominations, and starting with television first and then moving on to film, and then I'm going to discuss what I like, what I don't like, and what I think got snubbed. And the 25th Screen Actors Guild Awards will be held on Sunday, January 27th, and will be hosted by Megan Mullally. So here we go. Here are the nominations for the 25th Screen Actors Guild Awards, starting off with television. Best Male Actor in a Comedy Series: Alan Arkin, The Kominsky Method; Michael Douglas, The Kominsky Method; Bill Hader, Barry; Tony Shalhoub, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel; Henry Winkler, Barry. Best Female Actor in a Comedy Series: Alex Borstein, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel; Alison Brie, Glow; Rachel Brosnahan, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel; Jane Fonda, Grace and Frankie; Lily Tomlin, Grace and Frankie. Best Male Actor in a Drama Series: Jason Bateman, Ozark; Sterling K. Brown, This Is Us; Joseph Fiennes, The Handmaid's Tale; John Krasinski, Jack Ryan; Bob Odenkirk, Better Call Saul. Best Female Actor in a Drama Series: Julia Garner, Ozark; Laura Linney, Ozark; Elizabeth Moss, The Handmaid's Tale; Sandra Oh, Killing Eve; Robin Wright, House of Cards. Best Male Actor in a Television Movie or Limited Series: Antonio Banderas, Genius Picasso; Darren Criss, The Assassination of Gianni Versace, American Crime Story; Hugh Grant, A Very English Scandal; Anthony Hopkins, King Lear; Bill Pullman, The Sinner. Best Female Actor in a Television Movie or Limited Series: Amy Adams, Sharp Objects; Patricia Arquette, Escape at Dannemora; Patricia Clarkson, Sharp Objects; Penelope Cruz, The Assassination of Gianni Versace, American Crime Story; Emma Stone, Maniac. Best Stunt Ensemble in a Television Series: Daredevil, Glow, Jack Ryan, The Walking Dead, Westworld. Best Ensemble in a Comedy Series: Atlanta, Barry, Glow, The Kominsky Method, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Best Ensemble in a Drama Series: The Americans, Better Call Saul, The Handmaid's Tale, Ozark, This Is Us. And now onto the film categories. Best Male Actor in a Supporting Role: Mahershala Ali, Green Book; Timothée Chalamet, Beautiful Boy; Adam Driver, Black Klansman; Sam Elliott, A Star Is Born; Richard E. Grant, Can You Ever Forgive Me? Best Female Actor in a Supporting Role: Amy Adams, Vice; Emily Blunt, A Quiet Place; Margot Robbie, Mary Queen of Scots; Emma Stone, The Favorite; Rachel Weisz, The Favorite. Best Male Actor in a Leading Role: Christian Bale, Vice; Bradley Cooper, A Star Is Born; Rami Malek, Bohemian Rhapsody; Viggo Mortensen, Green Book; John David Washington, Black Klansman. Best Female Actor in a Leading Role: Emily Blunt, Mary Poppins Returns; Glenn Close, The Wife; Olivia Colman, The Favorite; Lady Gaga, A Star is Born; Melissa McCarthy, Can You Ever Forgive Me? Best Stunt Ensemble of a Motion Picture: Ant-Man and the Wasp; Avengers: Infinity War; The Ballad of Buster Scruggs; Black Panther; Mission Impossible Fallout. And finally, Best Cast of a Motion Picture: Black Panther, Black Klansman, Bohemian Rhapsody, Crazy Rich Asians, A Star is Born. Alright, and those are the nominations for the Screen Actors Guild Awards, and now I will give you my thoughts. Now, with television, I'm not going to be able to go in depth as I would for film, because some of these TV shows I've only seen bits and pieces of. Others I've never seen at all. I haven't watched anything of Ozark or The Kominsky Method. I haven't watched Killing Eve. I've seen some parts of The Handmaid's Tale Season 2, but not all of it. I still have to catch up on The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I fall behind on television because I'm so focused on seeing all the newest movies, but most of these are not very surprising, because we've seen them at the Emmys and the Golden Globes before, at least during this awards season. So, like Michael Douglas, Bill Hader, Henry Winkler, Rachel Brosnahan, Alex Borstein, Elizabeth Moss, Sandra Oh, Darren Criss, Hugh Grant, Antonio Banderas, Amy Adams, Patricia Arquette. There's not really anything snubs that I can talk about, since I haven't seen too many of these. I'm at least glad to see This Is Us is still in here, considering how it was shut out at the Golden Globes. From what I've seen so far of this new season, I like it. They still managed to throw in a lot of twists and turns. Maniac finally got some love here. People were thinking it was going to get nominated across the board at the Golden Globes, but instead it was completely shut out. It wasn't nominated for anything. But here Emma Stone managed to pull off a nomination, but not Jonah Hill. And with Escape at Dannemora, while Patricia Arquette was the only one nominated at the Golden Globes, several more people, such as her co-stars Benicio del Toro and Paul Dano, got nominated alongside her at the Critics' Choice Awards. But here it's just her again, and unfortunately they don't have an ensemble award for limited series and TV movies. John Krasinski for Jack Ryan, that was a bit of a surprise, because usually these action-type shows don't really go over well with the SAG Awards, or really any awards body, but I guess he'd been having such a good year with the success of A Quiet Place, they wanted to honor him in some way. But I haven't seen this new Jack Ryan series, so I can't personally say whether it's good or bad. And then I know many people will probably be very happy to see The Americans get in here finally, because up until now The Americans has never been nominated at the SAG Awards, but this is its only nomination for the ensemble, no individual nominations for Matthew Rhys or Kerry Russell, which I'm sure some people are bummed about. And then Robin Wright got a nice farewell nomination for House of Cards. Also, I think that nomination could be due in part to how she rallied everyone together to save the show following Kevin Spacey getting fired because of all the sexual assault allegations against him, and Netflix deciding to cancel the series, but then she managed to persuade them to do one final season with her character Claire front and center. And then we got a nice little nomination for Anthony Hopkins for King Lear, because he hadn't shown anywhere else in either the Golden Globes or Critics' Choice. That premiered back in September on Amazon. And the SAG Awards have always loved Shakespeare adaptations. I know Patrick Stewart got nominated for a TV movie version of Macbeth several years ago, and there's that series The Hollow Crown over in the UK, which showcases like Shakespeare plays, and I know like Jeremy Irons got a nomination for that a couple years ago. So SAG Awards love themselves some Shakespeare on the TV side. Alright, now on to the film categories where I can talk more in depth about the nominations. For Best Male Actor in a Supporting Role, I mean, this is pretty much what we've been getting all award season, and for the most part it's really good. Mahershala Ali in Green Book, definitely. I wouldn't say it's the best movie of award season by any means. I think it is a little bit too safe at times and a little too predictable, but the performances are good, especially Mahershala Ali. Timothy Chalamet, excellent, beautiful boy. That film has some structural problems, but Timothy Chalamet is absolutely fantastic in his portrayal of a real-life drug addict, Nick Sheff. It's just heartbreaking to watch. Adam Driver, excellent in BlacKkKlansman. Sam Elliott, he's really good in A Star Is Born. He only maybe has like 15 minutes of screen time. He like comes and goes, and there's large chunks where he's not in the movie, but when he is, he's really good. And then Richard E. Grant, my personal favorite supporting actor performance of last year. He was phenomenal in Can You Ever Forgive Me, and both he and Melissa McCarthy were great at playing these unlikable characters whom you were fascinated by despite their repugnant behavior. Of course, there are some snubs, and some of these probably had no chance of getting in anyway, but I'd like to just give them a shout out nonetheless, such as Russell Hornsby in The Hate You Give. Amazing performance, probably one of the best supporting performances of this decade in a young adult movie. Alex Wolff for Hereditary. I know a lot of people have been praising Toni Collette as the best thing about that movie, and she's fantastic in the movie, minus one or two moments where I think she went a little too over the top. But to me, the true standout of Hereditary was Alex Wolff. I thought he was absolutely phenomenal, and he's been kind of trailing in the shadow of his brother Nat Wolff for a while, and Nat Wolff's also been starring in several films. They used to be Nickelodeon stars back in the day, but now they've been moving into more like mature adult roles. But now I think Alex Wolff has finally found his breakout role with Hereditary. Josh Hamilton for 8th Grade, I would have liked to see him in here. Or even, and I can't believe I'm saying this, Cedric the Entertainer for First Reformed, in which he goes by his actual last name, Cedric Kyles. You know, man, I never thought he'd be able to pull off a dramatic performance like that, because almost everything he does is comedy. But there's not really too much to complain about with this category. At least Sam Rockwell's not in here for Vice. Now, I don't hate his performance in Vice, but it just doesn't have enough to it, I think, to warrant any kind of serious awards nomination, especially coming off his performance in 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, where he just did a clean sweep of all 5 major award shows, and deservedly so. But now on to Best Female Actor in a Supporting Role, and oh boy, things are going to get really interesting here. Amy Adams, she's really good in Vice. I don't think she should win here, because I think she needed more dramatic moments to clinch a win. That's not anything bad against her performance, which is great. I'm just saying the director and writer Adam McKay should have probably given her a little more to do. Emily Blunt, really great in A Quiet Place, especially for a performance that contains hardly any dialogue, and of course there's that very climactic moment in which she has to give birth without any pain medicine, but she can't make a single sound, or else these aliens will kill her, because of course in A Quiet Place these aliens literally kill people through any sound that they make involving them, like screaming or talking or whatever. Margot Robbie, she's good in Mary Queen of Scots, but I wouldn't say she was like awards worthy, because that film is good, but it suffers from some pacing issues. And the performances are good, but not necessarily great. I love both Emma Stone and Rachel Weisz in here for The Favorite. If I had to personally choose between the two of them, I'd say Emma Stone by just a little bit, but both these ladies are fantastic, and should either of them win, I wouldn't be angry at all. But of course, there's some very big snubs. Like everyone said, like almost every article that came out after these nominations, where is Regina King for If Beale Street Could Talk? Did not enough people of the nominating committee see it before then? That does happen, because Leonardo DiCaprio was infamously snubbed at the SAG Awards for The Wolf of Wall Street because not enough voters had seen the movie in time, at least those on the nominating panel, because SAG has like over 150,000 voters, and only a small group are chosen every year to do the nominations, and it's always a rotating group. If they hadn't seen the film at that time, it's a damn shame, because she's phenomenal, and And oftentimes with supporting categories, there's always the question of, is the actor or actress committing category fraud? Is this more of a lead performance, but it's put in supporting to give them a better chance to win? That's not the case with Regina King. She's definitely a supporting performance because there's large chunks of time where she's not on screen, but when she is, she's absolutely phenomenal, and she doesn't have to resort to giving big, dramatic speech moments like many people assume that these awards have to recognize. It's a more subtle performance, but man, does she knock it out of the park. And actually, going back to Emily Blunt, while she was great in A Quiet Place, if you ask me, the person from that movie who should be nominated here is not necessarily Emily Blunt, but actually Millicent Simmons, who played the daughter. Her performance, I thought, was the best in the movie, and she had the biggest emotional arc of the film. I'm not going to give away the full spoilers about that, because I think that in itself is something you should discover on your own. With Emily Blunt, I mentioned that specific scene because it was featured in the trailer. But Millicent Simmons in A Quiet Place, she was absolutely phenomenal. She provided the biggest emotional arc of the film, and the way her character progresses from the beginning to the end of the movie is the most transformative. She's just absolutely phenomenal. And that's 2 for 2 because this is only her second movie. She made her film debut last year in the criminally underseen Wonderstruck, and she was absolutely phenomenal in that movie as well. Also missing here, and she probably didn't have much chance of getting a nomination anyway, because this film bombed badly at the box office and got hardly any recognition from any critics groups, is Cynthia Erivo in Bad Times at the El Royale. That's that movie with the big ensemble cast like John Hamm, Jeff Bridges, Dakota Johnson, Chris Hemsworth, who are all fantastic in the movie. And this movie is kind of like Pulp Fiction, in which it tells all these people's stories and how they all converge together at this one place and time. But to me, Cynthia Erivo was the true standout, and she also appeared in Widows last year. This was like kind of her breakout year after she had a stint on Broadway in the revival of The Color Purple. And she's got a bunch of other stuff coming out next year as well. So truly phenomenal performance, and it's a shame more people haven't discovered Bad Times at the El Royale because, well, it's not a perfect film, it's definitely an underseen film that deserves a second look by some. And for Best Male Actor in a Leading Role, this is still a good lineup, but there's still some major head-scratching snubs. Christian Bale, phenomenal in Vice, especially with the way he transforms into Dick Cheney, both through prosthetic makeup and his own actual weight gain, because being a method actor, he likes to gain or lose a lot of weight for his roles. Bradley Cooper, phenomenal in A Star is Born, easily his best performance of his entire career. Rami Malek, amazing in Bohemian Rhapsody, even if the film itself is only decent. Decent film with an amazing performance, but of course now that film is forever enshrouded in scandal. I mean, it kind of always has been, from the very beginning, with the director Bryan Singer, based on past allegations of sexual abuse against him, and then him getting fired for going AWOL without telling anybody, and then these new allegations, which just came out a couple days ago in The Atlantic, I believe. And there's always going to be the big debate of, should the people who work with a certain director who's accused of doing something bad, should they suffer as well and not be rewarded for performances? And the answer to that is, I don't know. Sometimes I think they should, sometimes they shouldn't. I go back and forth all the time, and because it's one of those things where no matter what side you take, you're always going to get slammed for your opinion. You're damned if you do think they should get punished for this, and you're damned if you don't think they should get punished for this. Viggo Mortensen, really good in Green Book, and John David Washington, really good in Black Klansman. There isn't really a bad performance in this lineup, but there's, out of the big snubs, I'm sure everyone else will probably think this as well, but where's Ethan Hawke in First Reformed? I seriously don't get how that performance could just sweep with all these Critics Awards and not get enough recognition. He got recognition at the Critics' Choice Awards, but why not this too? I mean, this to me was one of Ethan Hawke's greatest performances he's ever done. And yes, First Reformed may not be the most comfortable film to watch, and I'll agree with many people that the ending was too abrupt and could have been done a lot better, but everything leading up to like those last 30 seconds was phenomenal, especially Ethan Hawke. I mean, he pretty much carries this whole movie on his shoulders, and if he didn't step up to the task, the movie would just fall flat on its face. And he gives probably one of the most complex portrayals of a priest I've ever seen, because he's playing a priest dealing with health problems and dealing with kind of an existential crisis in which he wonders, what is the point of my life? What is the point of what I'm doing? Because there's this one parishioner of his who had these environmental concerns, and then he becomes concerned about this stuff too. And it sounds convoluted from the way I'm describing it, but if you watch the film, it really isn't. And if you watch it, you'll be thinking to yourself, why didn't that get more recognition? Willem Dafoe is also missing here from At Eternity's Gate after getting nominated at both the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice, and he was my personal favorite lead actor performance of 2018, because even though he's technically too old to be playing Vincent van Gogh, that doesn't take away from the power of his performance, not only in displaying Vincent van Gogh's talent as a painter, but also the heartbreak of watching him struggle with mental illness, and how like the film showcases that through shaky cam and blurred camera work combined with his performance. It's just heartbreaking and incredible to watch. Lucas Hedges was also really good in Boy Erased, as were Russell Crowe and Nicole Kidman over in the supporting actor and actress categories. Forgot to mention them. And Lucas Hedges did get a Golden Globe nomination, but he hasn't gotten a nomination anywhere else. Same and with Nicole Kidman. She did get a Critics' Choice nomination for Boy Erased, but sadly nothing else. For Best Female Actor in a Leading Role, Emily Blunt was incredible in Mary Poppins Returns. Is she as good as Julie Andrews? Not quite, but then again, that's a tough task for any actress. But she comes pretty close to capturing all the magic that Julie Andrews created with her performance from the original film. Glenn Close, she's phenomenal in The Wife, although she's been the only person from that film getting any recognition. And as much as she has like the overdue factor riding on her for like award season, particularly the Oscars, she isn't necessarily my favorite performance of the bunch, but she's still worthy of being nominated here nonetheless. Olivia Colman, phenomenal in The Favorite. I know there's been some debate of whether her performance is lead or supporting, but I accept it as lead here. I don't think she's committing category fraud, but she's fantastic in The Favorite. Chances are, if you've never heard of her, you've probably seen her in a movie or two, but just never recognized her. But if you go on her IMDb page, I'm sure you'll find at least one movie you've seen her in, and this, I think, will give her a lot more recognition stateside, or at least for those who have seen it, because she truly is a phenomenal actress. Lady Gaga in A Star is Born, I mean, wow. Talk about something incredible. I wasn't the biggest fan of her beforehand. I didn't necessarily hate her music, but I didn't necessarily like it enough to want to like buy her albums. And I had heard about her other acting roles, like in Machete Kills and American Horror Story, and I know like those roles kind of put focus on her Lady Gaga pop star persona and didn't always turn out well, at least according to critics and fans. But here, I mean, she strips away all of that pop star persona to portray like kind of a raw, more kind of a rock singer. And her performance is very emotional, not just with her singing, but her acting as well. I mean, whatever Bradley Cooper did in his directing, it paid off magnificently. And keep in mind, this is Bradley Cooper's directorial debut. But here, it looks like he's been directing movies for at least 20 years. And especially the ending with her final song, oh, it just ripped my heart out. I mean, this to me is the best performance of these nominations, and I'm honestly surprised I'm saying that because, like I said before, I wasn't the biggest Lady Gaga fan before seeing this movie. I'm not necessarily going to run out and buy all her albums after this, but I'll definitely be more willing to see her in more acting roles, especially if like she's going to continue to step out of her pop star persona, kind of like how Cher did in the 80s with movies like Mask and Moonstruck. And of course, Cher famously won an Oscar for Moonstruck, a film in which she had none of her pop star persona at all in her performance. And of course, famously, when Cher won her Oscar for Moonstruck, she was also nominated against Glenn Close that year, and Glenn Close was nominated for Fatal Attraction. Just an interesting fact/coincidence I wanted to point out. For Best Stunt Ensemble of a Motion Picture. Not really much to say about this because I haven't seen a bunch of these, but given the nature of these films from the trailers you've seen, it's not really surprising that they would be nominated here, especially for films like the Marvel films and Mission Impossible Fallout. The Ballad of Buster Scruggs might seem like a surprise to some, but it does feature like fights and shootouts in some parts, and on horseback, and anything on horseback obviously requires a lot of stunt work. And then Best Cast of a Motion Picture. This is interesting because usually the SAG Awards try to do an even mixture of box office hits that were critically acclaimed as well as more art house films that feature a large ensemble. But here, this is kind of like the equivalent of what might be nominated in Best Popular Film at the Oscars if that category were still going to go forward. Because all of these films were pretty big box office hits. Like Black Panther is now the highest grossing film domestically in America, I think, of all time. Just domestically at least. Like worldwide, it's now like the third highest grossing film ever, because I believe Avatar and Titanic are still the top two. Black Klansman, I mean, obviously that didn't make as much money as these other movies, but it had a much smaller budget, and it did do pretty well in theaters for a film with that type of budget, so yes, on its own terms, it's a box office success. Bohemian Rhapsody, that is now, I believe, the highest grossing musical biopic of all time. I was one of the people who had a feeling it would be a big success, while there were others thinking it would be a massive flop, but even I didn't think it would be this big of a success. Of course, one has to wonder how much more of a success would it be if like more people had known about the Bryan Singer allegations, but I guess most people probably wouldn't have cared anyway, because you know, it's a film about Queen, and they're one of the most iconic rock bands of all time. Crazy Rich Asians, of course, that was a big success at the box office. And then, of course, A Star is Born, a rare example of a remake being extremely critically and commercially successful. And, of course, all these films had significant critical acclaim, well, except for Bohemian Rhapsody. That, last time I checked, had like a 62% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is just barely fresh, because the minimum fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes is 60%. And there have been some who've criticized Bohemian Rhapsody for some of the historical inaccuracies, like in the movie they show Queen breaking up so Freddie Mercury can do a solo career. That never happened. In the movie they show Freddie Mercury getting his AIDS diagnosis before the iconic Live Aid concert. That never happened. He got his diagnosis, I believe, 2 years later. So, kind of pretty significant tweaking for dramatic purposes, which have left some critics and some diehard Queen fans very upset. And then, of course, some have criticized Bohemian Rhapsody for not going deep enough in exploring Freddie Mercury's homosexuality. It does certainly portray it, and I think pretty well. I don't know how accurate it is in terms of portraying some of the men he dated. I did hear, though, that it is pretty accurate in the portrayal of his romantic relationship and friendship with this woman named Mary Austin, whom I believe, like, Freddie Mercury left his estate to after he died, because, like, he trusted her more than anyone else in the world, and was even, like, the godfather of her son, based on the research I did about the two of them. Well, some of these are pretty good, like Black Klansman, and I guess you could Crazy Rich Asians and A Star is Born. There definitely are some big snubs here, like Where is Widows? I forgot to mention that with Viola Davis in lead actress. Where was her nomination? Because she was incredible, but why not the ensemble too? Because all these women, Viola Davis, Elizabeth Debicki, Michelle Rodriguez, Cynthia Erivo, and even women who have kind of smaller roles like Carrie Coon and Jackie Weaver, and also the men of the film, Liam Neeson, Brian Tyree Henry, Colin Farrell, Daniel Kaluuya, Robert Duvall. I mean, all these people have their moment to shine, and they're all brilliant. And then, of course, Where's the Favorite? That was widely expected to get in here, and it's not here either, you know. I mean, all the cast members in that movie, Olivia Colman, Rachel Weisz, Emma Stone, Nicholas Hoult, Joe Alwyn, and a couple other actors whose names I don't have at the tip of my tongue, but they were all fantastic. Heck, even Mary Poppins Returns would have been nice to see in here. I mean, all of them. Emily Blunt, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Emily Mortimer, Ben Whishaw, Colin Firth, Dick Van Dyke, and even Angela Lansbury. They were all fantastic. Oh, and also, of course, Bad Times at the El Royale, which I mentioned earlier, because that is a very ensemble-heavy film. There's not really one central main character, but it's got a very impressive cast. John Hamm, Dakota Johnson, Jeff Bridges, Cynthia Erivo, Lewis Pullman, Chris Hemsworth. Another impressive cast where everyone has a moment to shine. Any one of those, I think, would have been better off being nominated here than, say, Bohemian Rhapsody. It's a good ensemble, but it's not necessarily a typical ensemble film because it very much is the Rami Malek show with everyone else supporting him. Because films that are usually nominated here usually are the ones that have the best use of an ensemble where everyone has a moment to shine. Perfect example being the movie Spotlight, where almost every cast member in that movie is the star, and there's not like one central main character and everyone else is the supporting character. They all equally can draw from each other. Another ensemble, even though only 4 people are in this ensemble, and sometimes small ensembles don't get nominated, but it's very much an ensemble film, is A Quiet Place. You know, that film very much relies on all 4 of those actors, John Krasinski, Emily Blunt, Millicent Simmons, and Noah Jupe, to work off of each other as this family surviving in this post-apocalyptic era, and they all work magnificently well off each other to the point where it's been named one of the best films of the year by many people, including me. So those are just some of the snubs in this category in particular, and yeah, I just hope in the future that the SAG Awards, while going for blockbuster films that have great ensembles, also go for the more smaller films as well, especially ones that might need a little more recognition in order for more casual audiences to see them. And those are my thoughts on the Screen Actors Guild Award nominations. Please let me know in the comment section below what you think of the nominations, and also be sure to subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell to get all my newest videos as soon as they're uploaded. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!